Hi people, it's that time again, another video from me, and so I welcome you back to Word Magic, where I attempt to weave words, magic, and hope into a tapestry that makes for a joyful life. And today I'm just going to chat with you a little bit about this, that, and a number of things, so stick around. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that buzzer below so you get notifications when I have new videos out. I am almost at 700 subscribers, so I'm excited. So come on, help me get there. So yeah, we're going to get started here in just a moment. For those who are not quite sure of who I am, brief intro, I'm Yasmine Galenorn. I am the New York Times, USA Today, and Publishers Weekly bestselling author of over 65 books. I've had 23 years in the business professionally, 20 of that spent with traditional publishers, mostly through New York, and the last 3 have been indie. And I am entering my 4th year as an indie author and very happy with it. So getting that out of the way, we'll get down to topics. So yeah, I may answer a few reader questions today, but I wanted to talk a bit of a personal note this time, which you all know that I'm fairly open about a lot of my personal life and my beliefs and my pathway and so forth. A number of you know that for the past few years I've been battling something called histamine intolerance. It's not well known in the United States yet, but it's fairly well known in Europe. And it's when your body cannot handle a number of the variables that bring histamine into it, and your body also releases histamine. I've talked about that in another video and on my blog before. And so the body will go into reactions, well, very much like an allergic reaction. Sometimes it can be anaphylactic when it thinks it's being attacked by something that shouldn't be attacking it. So recently, my reactions have not been getting better, and I talked to my doctor, and with my family history and the genetics that play into it and my symptoms, we're now looking at the probability that I have mast cell activation disorder, MCAD, also known as mast cell activation syndrome, or MCAS, which fits. I mean, it totally fits the symptoms I've got. It fits the reactions that I've been continually having, and why just a low histamine diet has not helped curb a number of them. And it also fits the way my body has acted all my life. So yeah, we're looking at that, and so my doctor put me on a medication. It's a mast cell stabilizer, and in the past 8 days I've had 2 basically minor reactions compared to 3 or 4 ones that required being knocked out by Benadryl. And I feel better, and I'm sleeping better. And it's not to the dosage that I need. Yeah, I start very small and move up, but it does seem to be making a difference. Rather noticeable, actually. So I'm hoping that this is the actual diagnosis, and if it is, then I can work with it. It's not fun to have something that won't go away. It's not fun to actually have a condition that will last your entire life. But it makes it easier to deal with in one sense, and it also explains so much for me. And the fact that I'm now on a medication that is actually helping and that I'm not seeing side effects from feels wonderful. I mean, it's like I've got hope again on it. I was getting very, very frustrated there and very nerve-wracked because of how many reactions I have been having and how much Benadryl I've had to take to counter them. And no matter what I did, it didn't seem to help. So yeah, there we go on that. So I'm learning all I can about it. Um, I already know quite a bit. I've studied this whole, um, I call it genre, but this whole narrow field of food allergies and mast cell disorders and stuff for a few years, especially once I developed the histamine intolerance, which actually I probably have always had it. I've probably always had this issue. It just became full-blown when my stress went sky high when I went indie. And that was kind of like the last straw trigger and knocked me over for a loop and threw my body into crisis mode. As it is, my hormones are still a bit out of whack. My cortisol hormone, I go into an adrenaline rush for so many things, and I'm hoping that will calm down too. So yeah, it's a whole new field, and basically it does require a few more adjustments, but they're ones I'm willing to take if it helps. And one of those is countering stress as much as possible, and another one is, well, it basically made me aware, made me gut aware. I mean, I knew that I was reacting to all this stuff. I knew it wasn't in my head. I knew it wasn't something that I was exaggerating. And yet there's always that little part that goes, maybe I'm just imagining this. Maybe it's just, me being overreactive, pun intended, I guess. Maybe it's just me, being melodramatic. And that, for me, came on, from my childhood when my stepfather never believed I was sick, and I was sick all the time when I was a kid. And I had major allergies, and I had chronic bronchitis and all sorts of things like that. But he never believed me. And there's always part of me that still kind of triggers into that, well, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm just being, overcautious or over this. And I'm so over being that way. So I'm working on that, and I'm hoping that, as we move along on this new path, that my symptoms are able to, die back a bit, that I'm able to find what I need to manage this in a better way. So there's that. And so much fun, going through the cupboards and going, okay, now I've eliminated so many foods, but now I can't have preservatives or anything with food dyes in it. It's like there's a whole lot of products that I was still eating that were probably triggering me off. And surprisingly, I don't know why, but when I sat back and really thought about it, the foods I do have left to eat, there's quite a number of them. I can't go out to a restaurant. I can't stop at the convenience store. Not if I don't want a reaction out of it. But I can eat a whole lot of foods. I just haven't been because I don't like vegetables that much. The vegetables I do love are off limits. Or at least some of them. But I'm going to make a more concerted effort to add vegetables into my diet and to, just make things from scratch again. I used to cook from scratch all the time. I love cooking, but a lot of that requires time, and I'm just going to have to give time to it again, which means cutting out, goofing around. It means cutting out sitting on Twitter, which I've already done a great deal of. I've already scaled back a great deal. It means, letting my assistants handle the things I've delegated to them. And that's not always easy for a control freak like me. But I shall do it. And I will report back. And I'm going to be writing more on my blog about this, about my journey with this, and trying to fathom my way through with my words, because that's the way I best understand things. I'm a very visually oriented person, but words are my medium, and they help me make sense of things. And when I blog about things like this, it helps me as much as it may help somebody else. So there's that. Now, let's see. As far as writing, I took this week off for the most part and got a few things tied up, but I finished writing Witching Hour and I got it to my editor, and I'm going to start on Witching Bones next week, a second Raven book, and I'm excited because Raven's first book taught me so much about her. And I love both Ember and Raven, but they are such different people, and they are so different in their approaches to life. And I understand Raven's approach better just because she's much more like me than just about any character I've written before. And I know I've said that before, but I think I've just been getting closer and closer to some of the core. Raven is me hyped up without quite so many filters. And I like her, though. I mean, I know that sounds strange. It makes it sound like I don't like myself, but I know I can be a bit much for some people at times. But I like Raven. I learned things about her I didn't know before through writing her book. I learned how deep her character can go. And I learned more, of course, about Raj, her gargoyle, and her ferrets. And you'll learn those things too. And I also got a real feel for the world of the Wild Hunt from a different perspective. It's almost like writing, from the different sisters' perspectives in Otherworld. Writing Raven and Ember, I'm getting a real sense for looking at the same world through two vastly different viewpoints. And that is exciting. That helps me create a more balanced and well-rounded world. And you get to see more of it than I can show you just through one character or the other by writing both characters. You get to see the world from two different perspectives and two different places where they come from. Because Raven, of course, does not work for the Wild Hunt. She has her own business, Witching Hour, which is, she works with the dead. She works with fortunes and divination. And she doesn't have to answer to the same gods and the same higher powers that the Wild Hunt has to answer to. Although I did find out, and these are not really spoilers, you'll find out from pretty much the get-go in the book, Raven works with Aron, Arawn, the Lord of the Dead in the Celtic mythos. She also works with Ceridwen, and it was fascinating to see how that shift in which gods the characters work with played into my understanding of their place in the world. So Raven's books, I think, in my own opinion, I think they're going to be a little darker, but they're also a little more out there. They're a little more on the fringe. And you get to meet all those wonderful on the fringe characters that don't necessarily play into the social circle of the members of the Wild Hunt. And vice versa, you know, Ember's social circle, Raven and Ember intersect along with Angel in a small area, but they have vastly different places in this world, and it's nice to be able to introduce you to different characters on a level that they're just not in passing. Because Raven, of course, hangs out with more of the anti-fae, like Vixen, the gender fluid owner of the burlesque go-go, and she hangs out with other members of the anti-fae. She hangs out with basically a more underground group of people. So I'm having fun. After I write Witching Bones, I will be returning to Ember for a couple books, for A Sacred Magic and The Eternal Return. And then I'll write more Raven, and then I'll write more Ember. I'll continue on like that. I am anticipating 2 books each for a while. And I also have a surprise for you. I'm not going to announce it yet. No, I told you last time that I had a surprise. I want to get things more prepared before I announce it. And again, it is not to do with Otherworld. It is not to do with movies or a series or anything like that. But it is something I've been waiting for a while, and I'm really happy about. And I think you will be happy too. And no, I'm not pregnant. I'm 58 years old. People always seem to assume that comes up. But people, I don't want kids. Never wanted kids. Probably can't have kids now, and that's a good thing. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. I was asked how I keep my characters so straight in my head, and I answered that in another video in terms of the rooms in my head. I'll try and remember to link it below. However, I want to make an addition to that in terms of talking about these characters. They're not cookie cutter for me. They are not cardboard. They are not two-dimensional. They're very three-dimensional, sometimes 4- and 5-dimensional, in my head and in my heart as well. I love these characters. I wouldn't write about them if I didn't love them. That's why, no, I can't write more Chintz and China books. Yes, I cared about Emerald very much, but I don't love that world enough to write about it and do it justice anymore. And I will not write a book that I don't feel I can do justice to. But to write a book for me means to give myself into it for however long I'm writing it and editing it. And, I may write faster now, but that doesn't mean that I'm not as invested in each book. It just means that I'm pouring myself in there in a more intensified, almost more concentrated manner. And I have the leeway to actually do that now. So, I want to give you these books and do justice to what I'm writing. And so the characters, they are very, very tangible and palpable in my head. It's like I can see Ember when I close my eyes. I can see Raven. They're not the same character, and they're very different. It'd be like me mixing up my friends. I know that sounds odd, I suppose, but it'd be like me going up to my best friend and calling her by my niece's name, or going up to my husband and calling him by somebody else's name. I don't mix up the people in my life I don't mix up the characters in my books. At least for the main characters. Sometimes I get things askew. I mean, every writer does. But to me, they're all so individual, and they have their own lives, and they have their own loves, and their own excitement, and dismays, and sorrows, and those are all unique to that character. And so yeah, I don't have to try and keep them straight because they are already straight in my head. And once you've been writing for a while, I think you'll understand this if you are someone who is looking to be a writer, or whoever asked that question was looking to be a writer. I think you'll understand after you've been writing for a while, the characters become very, very solid. And it would be, I mean, while you may sometimes forget what color somebody's eyes are or what this or that, you don't forget the core of the character. So there's my answer on that. And on that note, I'm probably going to cut this short this time. I'm already at 20 minutes, and we know how I like to ramble. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I appreciate everybody who's commented on my videos so far, and as I said, I'm close to 700 subscribers on the channel, and I'm aiming for 1,000 by the end of the year, so crossing my fingers I'll get that last 300. It's a goal. What can I say? You know, it's like I'm a goal-oriented person, and while I don't really pay attention that much to followers on Twitter or to the number of followers on my Facebook page or something, because it's so mobile, YouTube feels like a little more interactive. You know, it's like you're hearing me talk to you, and I'm seeing your responses on there. It's more in person, I suppose. Anyway, so that's it for today, and you have a wonderful week ahead, and I will talk to you later.